The sky was gray that afternoon, not stormy, but not clear either. Just the kind of mood Anna James felt in her chest. She had dressed simple that day, an old beige cardigan, faded, jeans and slip-on sneakers. No makeup, no jewelry, no designer labels. Just herself. She had been running errands nearby when she remembered her husband mentioned he wanted to surprise his brother with a new car. A Rolls-Royce, to be exact. Knowing how busy he'd been lately, Anna decided to check one out herself and save him the time. It was supposed to be a kind gesture, something any wife would do without a second thought. She walked into the gleaming glass showroom with a soft smile and quiet confidence. She didn't need to scream wealth. Her husband, Malcolm James, did that enough for both of them. A self-made billionaire in the tech world, Malcolm had more zeros in his net worth than most people had thoughts in a day. But Anna never let that change her. She still shopped at farmers' markets, still baked from scratch, still looked people in the eye and said thank you. The luxury dealership didn't care about that. As soon as she stepped in, the mood shifted. The woman at the front desk barely looked up from her phone. "Can I help you?" "Yes," Anna replied kindly. "I was hoping to see the Rolls-Royce Phantom models. My husband and I are thinking of gifting one to his brother." The woman raised an eyebrow and gave her a long, judgmental look, from her untied hair to her plain clothes. "Aha," she said, dragging out the words like she was speaking to a liar. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," Anna said, still polite. "I was just passing by and thought." "We work by appointment," the woman snapped, cutting her off. "Our clients usually don't just wander in off the street. I can give you a brochure." Before Anna could respond, a man in a tight blazer, probably one of the sales associates, joined the scene. "Problem here, Michelle?" he asked, smirking. "She wants to see a Rolls," Michelle answered with a grin, not even lowering her voice. The man turned to Anna. "Ma'am, these cars start at over $500,000. We don't usually do walk-ins, especially for this range. Maybe try Mercedes down the block." Anna blinked. She wasn't angry yet, just confused. "I didn't say I was buying it today. I just wanted to." "Ma'am," he said again, more firmly now, "we have serious clients arriving soon. Please come back when you're ready to actually purchase. Preferably with your husband." He smiled like he'd just said something clever. Anna stood there, stunned for a moment. The humiliation was slow, like heat rising in her chest. It wasn't the first time she'd been underestimated. But something about today, about the arrogance in their tone, made it sting deeper. She looked at them both, their smug faces lit under chandeliers they thought gave them status. Then she gave a small nod, like she understood something they didn't. "All right," she said softly. "Thank you." And with that, she left quietly like she came in. But that night at dinner, Malcolm noticed her silence. "Everything okay?" he asked. She looked at him and debated whether to tell him. But she did. She told him exactly what happened, word for word. Not in anger, but with a kind of tired disappointment, like someone who'd hoped for better from the world. Malcolm sat still through it all. His expression didn't change, but his grip on the wine glass tightened just slightly. "Did you get the name of the salesman?" he asked. "I didn't have to." His name tag said Jason, and the receptionist was Michelle. Malcolm didn't say much after that. He simply nodded. And the next morning, at 10:02 a.m., a deep black Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up slowly outside that same dealership, sleek, commanding, flawless. It was double-parked across the front entrance. And the man who stepped out of the driver's side wore a suit that cost more than Jason's monthly salary. But he wasn't alone. Another figure stepped out of the passenger side. It was Anna, still simple, still soft. But this time, the world would see her for who she really was. The moment Anna stepped out of the Rolls, a hush fell over the dealership. Jason, the same smug salesman from the day before, was standing near the entrance, holding a cappuccino and chatting with another employee about his weekend plans. He noticed the car first, then the suited driver, and finally her. His lips parted slightly. Recognition flickered, then confusion, and finally dread. Anna didn't say a word as she walked up the steps, her chin held high but not in arrogance, in quiet certainty. She didn't need to announce herself. The $600,000 machine behind her did all the talking. Malcolm hadn't come with her. He didn't need to. When she told him what happened, he simply said, "Let me handle it, but you'll walk in first." Now she was here, still in her same understated style. A white blouse and navy slacks this time. Hair pulled into a clean ponytail. No designer logos. No diamonds. Just presence. The suited man who had driven her there opened the dealership door without touching the handle. Automatic doors slid wide, and Anna stepped in. Michelle looked up and her face went pale. "Welcome to," she began, voice suddenly sweet. Anna didn't answer her. She kept walking, past the reception desk, toward Jason, whose forced smile was trembling at the edges. "Good morning," he said, too loud, too fast. "Can I help you today?" She tilted her head just slightly. "Jason, isn't it?" He swallowed. Yes. I believe we may have met yesterday." "You believe?" He gave a dry laugh. "Of course we did. My apologies if there was any misunderstanding. Yesterday. We've had quite a few customers lately. Sometimes mistakes happen." "Mistakes?" Anna repeated calmly. "I wasn't mistaken about anything." Jason's mouth opened, but no words came. Behind him, another employee stood frozen, watching the scene unfold with wide eyes. The general manager, a tall man in a blue suit with graying hair, walked briskly out of his office when he saw the rolls still idling outside. His eyes went from the car to Jason to Anna. "Miss, may I ask?" "Mrs. James," Anna corrected softly, turning to face him. The manager blinked. "Mrs. James, my deepest apologies if something occurred yesterday." "That I was asked to leave," she said, her voice still even, still composed. "Told I couldn't afford to be here. Told to come back with my husband. So I did." The manager's face drained of color as he processed what she was saying. He looked at Jason, then Michelle, then back to Anna. I assure you this is not how we treat customers." "But it is," she interrupted gently. "That's exactly how you treated me." Silence filled the room. Then came the sound of tires. Not just any tires, the deep, growling hum of luxury engines. The door behind Anna opened again, and in walked a man whose name could make a stock price rise or fall in seconds. Malcolm James. Tailored charcoal suit. No tie. Calm expression. Hands in his pockets. But his eyes were cutting. "Which one's Jason?" he asked quietly, looking around. Jason raised his hand like a child caught stealing. Malcolm didn't even walk up to him. He looked at the manager instead. "Your people had one chance to treat my wife with respect," Malcolm said. "They failed. Now, I own this dealership. Paperwork was signed an hour ago." The manager's jaw fell open. Michelle made a choking noise. Jason looked like he was about to throw up. Anna stood still, a step behind her husband, watching their faces fall like dominoes. "I'm not here to fire anyone," Malcolm added. "That's Anna's choice." And with that, he stepped aside. Anna looked at each of them, Jason, Michelle, the manager. "I don't want anyone fired," she said slowly. "I want everyone trained." Jason blinked. "Trained? On how not to assume that someone who dresses simple doesn't belong here. On how to treat women alone with the same respect as men in suits. On how not to humiliate someone just because you don't think they can afford your overpriced cars." No one moved. No one breathed. "And if they refuse training," she continued, "then yes, they should leave. But that's still their choice." The silence was heavier now. Malcolm looked at her with pride in his eyes. Not just because she took the high road, but because she did it without losing her calm, her class, or her kindness. "I'll be sending my driver back later to pick up a Phantom," she added, turning toward the exit. "Make sure it's the one I was looking at yesterday." She paused, then turned her head just slightly. "Oh, and Jason?" "Yes, ma'am. Next time a simple woman walks in, You might want to ask her name first. She walked out, and the door closed behind her. Jason stood frozen long after Anna and Malcolm had left, as if time itself had stopped in that showroom. The silence around him wasn't just awkward, it was suffocating. Michelle sat back down at her desk, staring at the screen like it might somehow explain what had just happened. The general manager, Mr. Carlyle, finally spoke, but his voice was low and clipped. "You to my office. Now." Jason and Michelle exchanged a nervous glance and followed him silently, the clack of their shoes against the marble floor the only sound in the room. Behind the frosted glass door, Carlyle slammed a folder onto his desk. "Do you two even realize what just happened?" Jason licked his lips. "Look, I didn't know she was married to that Malcolm James. I mean, how could I?" She came in looking like, "Finish that sentence," Carlyle snapped. "And you're fired right now." Jason went pale. "I don't care how someone walks in here dressed. Your job is to sell cars, not make judgments like you're running a fashion blog. You insulted a billionaire's wife. You humiliated her. Then you got all of us bought out because of your stupidity." Michelle tried to speak. "I didn't say anything that bad." Carlyle whipped around to her. "You laughed in her face." Michelle's mouth clamped shut. Carlyle sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "If it weren't for Mrs. James showing more class than the both of you put together, this entire staff would be out on the street today." Outside the office, news had already spread among employees. Whispers traveled fast in places like this. Everyone knew what happened. Everyone was watching. And Jason, he could feel it, eyes on him like darts. Meanwhile, just a few blocks away, Anna sat in a cozy cafe with a cappuccino in hand, looking out the window like none of this had happened. She wasn't celebrating, and she wasn't angry. She was just thoughtful. Malcolm sat across from her, stirring his tea absently. "You handled that better than I ever could have," he said. "I didn't do it for revenge," Anna replied. "I just wanted them to think next time." Malcolm chuckled softly. "You made a bigger impact by staying calm than I ever would have by shouting." She sipped her drink, then said, "You really bought the dealership?" "I bought the whole chain." Anna's eyebrows shot up. "You didn't have to do that." "I didn't do it for revenge either," he said, leaning forward. "I did it because people like them are everywhere. Arrogant, superficial, pretending to know the value of a person based on shoes or skin or status." Anna smiled faintly. "And now you're their boss." "No," Malcolm said seriously. "You are." Anna laughed. "What?" He pulled out a slim black folder and slid it across the table. "I put it in your name. You're the owner. Do whatever you want with it. Keep it. Sell it. Shut it down. Use it as a training center. Your call." Anna stared at the folder for a moment. She didn't touch it yet. "You're serious?" she said softly. Malcolm just nodded. Anna didn't speak for a while. Then she leaned back and exhaled. "I never wanted power like that. I just wanted people to stop treating others like garbage." "That's why you're the right person to have it," Malcolm said. She finally opened the folder and skimmed through the documents. Her name was there in bold print. Owner, sole shareholder, all of it. She wasn't just a simple woman anymore in the eyes of the world. Not that she ever cared to be anything else. But now, she had a chance to change more than just how she'd been treated. She could change the whole culture that allowed people like Jason and Michelle to thrive unchecked. "I think I know what to do," she said at last. "Yeah." Anna's eyes lit up with a subtle kind of fire. "I want to turn that dealership into a new kind of experience. One that doesn't look at people and assume their worth. I want salespeople, trained to treat everyone the same, whether they walk in wearing a Rolex or rubber slippers." Malcolm leaned back and nodded. "Then that's what it'll be." Later that evening, Anna sat at her desk at home, typing up her plan for the dealership's transformation. Not just policies but values, respect, equality, patience. Meanwhile, back at the showroom, Jason and Michelle sat quietly through the first mandatory diversity and humility training video that Anna had handpicked herself. They didn't know it yet, but this was just the beginning. The woman they kicked out, she was now their boss. And she wasn't just walking in the door anymore. She was holding the keys. 2 weeks later, the dealership looked the same on the outside: sleek glass, chrome trim, the elegant silver Spirit of Ecstasy statue gleaming atop the Rolls-Royce hood in the center of the display floor. But everything beneath that glossy exterior had started to change. Anna visited the dealership quietly, unannounced. No fanfare, no press, not even a driver this time. She arrived in a modest black SUV, parked in the guest lot, and walked in just as she had the first time. But this time, the receptionist stood immediately and greeted her with a smile that didn't feel forced. "Good morning, Mrs. James," she said with a nervous but genuine tone. "Would you like some coffee?" Anna smiled. "Just water. Thank you." The woman nodded and quickly disappeared to fetch it. The transformation had begun. But Anna knew it was more than just manners. She wanted a mindset shift. She had hired a third-party consultant who specialized in ethical business environments. Trainings were now mandatory. Staff meetings were held weekly, and Anna herself joined most of them. She didn't come as a boss, though. She came as a listener. She sat through their awkward silences, their forced apologies, their slow realization that what they once thought was harmless was actually harmful. Jason, in particular, was having a hard time. For the first few days after Malcolm's announcement, he had been walking on eggshells, expecting to be fired at any moment. But instead, Anna had asked for something that seemed far worse: accountability. He was required to personally write a reflection piece on customer perception and class bias. It wasn't just for punishment. Anna was testing him. And today, she was about to find out how much, if anything, had changed in him. "Jason, can you join me in my office?" she asked gently as she stood by the service bay, clipboard in hand. He flinched slightly and nodded, following her down the hallway. He hadn't seen this side of her before: firm, poised, direct, but still without the edge he used to wield like a blade when speaking to others. Inside the office, she gestured for him to sit across from her. "So," she said, opening a file, "I've read your reflection piece." Jason cleared his throat, unsure whether to smile or apologize. "It wasn't bad," Anna said. "But I need to know, was it honest?" Jason hesitated. "Parts of it were. I didn't sugarcoat how I treated you. I knew I was rude. Just didn't think it mattered at the time." "Why?" "Because I didn't think someone dressed simply was a real buyer, or worth the time." He paused, then added quickly, "I know that sounds bad." "It doesn't sound bad," Anna said. "It is bad." He nodded. "I wasn't trying to be cruel," he said, "but I was trying to filter for serious buyers. That's what I was trained to do." "No, Jason, you weren't trained to be rude. You chose to be." Jason looked away. He had no defense for that. She was right. Anna leaned forward. "I'm giving you a chance because I don't think you're a bad person. I think you got too comfortable in a place that rewarded arrogance." He looked back at her, surprised. "Why not just fire me? Everyone else would've. Because if I fire you, you leave with your bad habits. If you stay and change, you carry something better into the world." Jason sat in stunned silence. No one had ever spoken to him like that. Firm but fair. Disappointed yet hopeful. "Thank you," he said quietly. "I won't forget this." Anna stood. "Good. Because I'm promoting you." His eyes went wide. "Wait, what?" "To team lead. On trial. You'll mentor new hires, especially on how we treat all clients. I'll be watching. If you slip back, it's over." Jason stood slowly, unsure whether to smile or panic. I'll earn it." Anna nodded. "I hope so." When he left, she sat back and stared out the office window at the sales floor. Felt different. Now, warmer, more open. She could see customers, some dressed sharp, some in hoodies, being greeted with genuine smiles. And in that moment, Anna didn't feel proud because she owned the place. She felt proud because something better was growing here. Later that day, as she stepped out the door to leave, a young woman approached, her nervous, clutching a folder. "Hi, I heard you're the new owner. I applied last week." Anna smiled gently. "You have experience?" "I was a barista," the girl said quickly. "But I've been studying auto sales and I love working with people." Anna took the folder and looked her in the eye. "Then you're already ahead of most who walk in here. Let's talk." As they walked back inside together, Anna knew this wasn't just about a dealership anymore. This was about rewriting the rules. The next few weeks unfolded like a quiet revolution. Word had started to spread, first through whispers in the luxury automotive world, then through local media blogs and eventually onto national platforms. Headlines read, "Simple woman turned owner. How a luxury car dealership got a soul makeover. Billionaire's wife doesn't fire. She rebuilds." From humiliated customer to CEO of change, people were talking. Some mocked, others applauded. But regardless of the noise, Anna stayed grounded. She didn't care about being seen as some modern-day Cinderella. She wasn't here for sympathy or attention. She was here for impact. And the impact was beginning to show. One Monday morning, Anna arrived earlier than usual. The showroom lights were still off, the sun just beginning to leak through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. She liked this, quiet. It was the only time she had to herself before the phones rang and the deals started flowing. As she walked past the inventory lineup, she noticed something. Jason was already there. He wasn't lounging or scrolling his phone. He was helping one of the janitors polish a dusty rim on a showroom model. Not because he had to. No one asked him. But he was there, in rolled-up sleeves, working in silence. Anna didn't say a word. She just watched him for a moment before heading to her office. Inside, her desk was now filled with more than just contracts. There were files labeled training and reform, community outreach, and equal opportunity hiring plan. She had a vision now, not just for this dealership, but for all the others under the chain Malcolm had bought in her name. The door creaked. Jason knocked. "Got a minute?" "Sure," Anna said, setting down her pen. "I spoke to the new hires last night," he said. "Told them what I did when you first came in. Told them what I learned." Anna tilted her head slightly. "That takes guts." Jason shrugged. "Figured they should hear the ugly truth up front. It's easy to act right when you're being watched. I want them to get it before they screw up like I did." Anna nodded. "And do they?" "Some do. One of the guys, we hired him last week, said his old manager trained him to ignore anyone who didn't pull up in a luxury car. I told him here we judge people on how they treat others, not how they dress." Anna smiled. "Good." Jason stood there for a moment. "You changed everything here, Mrs. James." She looked out the window. "I didn't. They did, once they were given a reason to." Later that day, Malcolm stopped by. He never made a show of it. No entourages, no cameras. He walked in like a quiet storm, always with purpose. This time, he brought coffee and a small velvet box. "You're early," Anna said, surprised. "I missed you," he replied, setting the coffee down and handing her the box. Anna opened it. Inside was a small, simple pin. It wasn't gold or jeweled, just a black enamel square with 3 small letters, WOT. She looked up at him. "Woman on top," he said with a grin. "Custom made." Anna laughed and shook her head. "You're ridiculous. And proud," he added, leaning against her desk. "You've built something stronger than any billion-dollar portfolio. You created a culture people want to be part of." Anna closed the box carefully. "It's not finished. It never will be," Malcolm said. "That's how you know it's alive." Later that evening, a woman walked into the dealership just before closing. She looked nervous, holding a toddler on her hip, wearing a windbreaker and sneakers. She glanced around awkwardly, unsure if she belonged. One of the newer saleswomen, trained personally by Anna, walked up with a smile. "Looking for anything in particular?" she asked gently. The woman hesitated. "Honestly, I'm just browsing. I probably can't afford much. No pressure, the saleswoman replied warmly. Let me show you around anyway. There's always something worth dreaming about. Anna, watching from her office, smiled. This was what she'd fought for. She had come in as a simple woman and been kicked to the curb. Now she was lifting the doors open for others like her. Not to prove a point, but to change the game. A few days later, Anna received an invitation she didn't expect. It came in a glossy white envelope with silver edges, the kind only sent by people who still thought exclusivity was luxury. The letter inside read, "You are cordially invited to the National Automotive Leadership Gala as a guest. Speaker under the Innovation Through Leadership category. We would be honored to have you share your journey." Anna blinked at the words, not because she was shocked by the invitation, but because she could already feel the room she'd be walking into. Men in tailored tuxedos, board members with last names that controlled old money, CEOs who would smile at her while wondering how she got there. She had a choice to make: decline and avoid the spectacle, or accept and say what needed to be said in front of those who needed to hear it. She folded the letter neatly and placed it on her desk. The choice wasn't hard. 2 weeks later, Anna stood backstage at the gala, dressed in a deep navy gown. Sleek, minimal, no labels showing. Her hair was in a simple low bun, makeup barely there. She looked exactly like herself, only polished for the lights. Malcolm stood beside her, adjusting her mic clip. "Still want me to sit in the back?" he asked with a smile. "Definitely," Anna smirked. "If they think I need your name to be taken seriously, let them be confused when I don't even mention it." He grinned. "They're not ready. I'm not here to be polite," she said, breathing in slowly. "I'm here to pull the mask off their system." When her name was called, there was a short silence before applause, a mix of polite curiosity and obligatory handclaps. Most of the people in the room didn't know her by face. Some recognized her from the recent articles but expected someone more performative. Instead, they got a woman who walked on stage with calm steps, eyes scanning the crowd. Not for approval but for understanding. She stood at the podium, adjusted the mic, and began without pretense. "3 months ago," she said, "I was humiliated in a luxury car dealership." There was an audible shift in the room. Attention tightened. "I walked in wearing simple clothes, no appointments, no flashy jewelry. I was laughed at, dismissed, and told to come back with a man." Murmurs started. Some leaned forward. Others looked at each other. The story had made headlines, but now it was coming from the source. "I left quietly, not because I was ashamed, but because I knew something they didn't. I wasn't just a customer. I was a test, and they failed." She paused. "But the story didn't end there. I came back not with vengeance but with ownership. I became the new boss, and instead of firing them all, I gave them something much harder, a chance to grow." There were no murmurs now, just silence. "I didn't want revenge. I wanted reform, and that's what we've done. Today, our dealership doesn't judge clients by their outfits, accents, or how shiny their watches are. We judge people on how they treat others. We train our staff to see past the surface." She let that sit for a moment. "You all talk about innovation. You spend millions on ads and AI, customer tracking software, showroom automation. But the truth is, none of it matters if the human experience is broken." A few people stiffened. "You want to sell more luxury cars? Start treating people like they belong, whether they pull up in a Bentley or a broken-down Honda." Soft applause started, small at first, then growing. Anna didn't raise her voice. She didn't use flashy slides. She didn't name-drop her billionaire husband. She didn't need to. "I was called just a simple woman," she continued. "But simplicity doesn't mean insignificance. And if your business doesn't understand that, then your biggest problem isn't competition. It's culture." By the end of the speech, the applause wasn't polite, it was real. And among the clapping hands, a few heads bowed. Not in praise, but in shame. She had cracked something in them, or at least planted the seed. Backstage, Malcolm was waiting with a proud grin. They didn't see it coming, he said. I didn't want them to, Anna replied. I wanted them to feel it. That night, her inbox was flooded. Dealership chains wanted to collaborate. Journalists requested interviews. Activists applauded. Customers wrote thank you notes just for existing. But Anna wasn't done. Because change wasn't about applause. It was about consistency. And the real work had just begun. Back at the dealership, change was no longer a memo on a boardroom wall. It was embedded in everything. The new hires weren't chosen by credentials alone, but by character. Anna insisted on meeting every new employee personally, even if just for 5 minutes. She didn't care if they had never sold a car before. What she cared about was how they spoke to the janitor, how they treated the nervous woman who brought them coffee, or whether they looked her in the eyes when she asked a question. Because Anna had learned that money didn't define people. Manners did. By now, the once cold dealership floor felt different. People smiled more, not the forced, robotic sales kind of smiles, but the relaxed kind that came from not having to pretend. Customers noticed it. Word spread fast. Not about prices or models, but the experience. One woman came in with her teenage son, clearly nervous. Her clothes were modest, her car an older Toyota parked between 2 gleaming BMWs. Anna happened to be walking past when she overheard the son whisper, "We probably shouldn't be here." Anna smiled and stepped in. "You're exactly where you belong," she said warmly. The woman blinked. "We're just looking." "Great," Anna replied. "Then let's look together." She walked them through the cars, explained every detail like they were VIPs, never once glancing at their shoes or car keys. The boy's eyes lit up when she opened the door of a silver Wraith and let him sit inside. The mother's shoulders relaxed. They didn't buy anything that day. But 2 weeks later, the woman returned. This time with her brother. And he did buy a car. "I came back," he told the sales team, "because my sister said this was the first place where she didn't feel less than." Anna heard the story secondhand, and it brought a quiet smile to her face. But while things were moving in the right direction, not everything was smooth. There were still challenges. Anonymous online comments that called her lucky, just the wife, or accused her of turning the dealership into a social experiment. A couple of old guard staff members quit, grumbling about soft culture and how things used to be. And then there was the customer last week who refused to be helped by one of the new black female sales consultants because he preferred someone more experienced. Anna was in the office when she got that call. She came down to the floor herself. "I hear you're uncomfortable," she said to the man with a calm but clear tone. "May I ask why?" The man hesitated. She seems new. I don't want someone who's still learning the ropes." Anna looked over at Kira, the consultant in question. Kira had 3 master certifications from her previous job and had outsold the top 3 salespeople last month. But more importantly, she had a smile that made people feel safe and heard. "She's not new," Anna replied, folding her arms. "She's one of our best." The man shrugged. "I just want someone more senior." Anna leaned forward slightly. "You want someone who makes you feel important, even if that means disrespecting someone else. That's not how we operate." The man looked taken aback. "Excuse me? You're free to choose where you shop," she continued. "But here, we don't adjust our values for anyone's ego." He left. He didn't buy. And Anna didn't care. Because if one arrogant customer walked out but 5 respectful ones walked in, it was a win. Later, Kira found her in the break room. "I would have understood if you just reassigned him," Kira said, eyes lowered. Anna shook her head. "No, I'm not here to protect sales numbers. I'm here to protect people." The next day, Kira came in an hour early. So did 2 others who had heard about what happened. Respect was contagious like that. By the end of the week, Anna held a staff meeting. She didn't do it often, but when she did, people paid attention. "I want to remind you all," she said, standing at the front, "that this isn't just about cars. About dignity. It's about giving people a space where they are seen, not judged." If that ever changes, we lose the one thing that makes us worth walking into. She paused. I was kicked out of this place once, but I came back. Not to get even, but to make sure it never happens to someone else. Applause filled the room. Not loud, not performative, but real. As the team went back to work, Anna stood in the doorway and looked at the place she once wasn't welcome in. It wasn't perfect, but it was better, and that meant everything. A few months had passed since Anna took over the dealership, and what once began as a humiliating experience had evolved into a quiet legacy. Not the kind written in gold plaques or blasted across headlines, but the kind that lingers in a person's heart after being treated like they matter. On a crisp autumn morning, Anna stood outside the building just before opening hours, warm coffee in her hand. The air smelled of change, leaves turning, customers shifting, and a culture that had firmly taken root. A small team of trainees stood near the entrance, new faces with nervous smiles. Among them was a young man named Jordan, barely 20, ex-fast food worker with no experience in cars but a natural kindness in the way he greeted people. Anna took a sip of her coffee and watched as Kira guided them with confidence. Jason stood nearby too, calmer now, more balanced. He didn't bark instructions anymore. He listened. He guided. It was everything Anna had hoped to see before she handed over the final part of her plan. Later that day, Malcolm met her at the rooftop of their downtown apartment. He had set up dinner, candles flickering in the breeze, a quiet celebration of everything she had done, without a spotlight, without needing to be someone else. You look tired, he said gently as she sat down. I am, she admitted, but the good kind of tired. Malcolm raised a glass to the woman who didn't just own a dealership, but changed it. Anna smiled, tapping her glass to his. It was never about the dealership. I know, Malcolm said, watching her. It was about making sure no one ever feels the way you did. Exactly, she whispered. They ate in silence for a while, watching the city lights flicker below. Anna thought back to that first day, the laughter, the dismissal, the feeling of being unseen. She had come so far from that moment, not by screaming for revenge, but by building something stronger. And now it was time to start something new. I'm stepping down, she said quietly. Malcolm looked at her. Are you sure? She nodded. The foundation is there. The culture is solid. It doesn't need me in the day-to-day anymore. I'll still guide it from afar, but I want to do more. Reach beyond this one building. Malcolm smiled. What's next? Anna looked out at the skyline, thoughtful. A foundation. Scholarships for women in male-dominated industries. Training programs for overlooked youth. Mentorships. Maybe even a book. He grinned. That's not a step down. That's a step up. She laughed. Then I'm stepping up. A few days later, Anna called a staff meeting. She stood before them, the woman they now admired, not because of who she married, but because of who she was. A simple woman who never acted like she was better than anyone, but expected everyone to be better. I'm not disappearing, she said to them, but I am moving on to the next chapter. You all made this place what it is. Keep it that way. Keep proving people wrong. Not with arguments, but with actions. Tears welled up in a few eyes. Even Jason swallowed hard, his arms crossed to hide it. Kira stepped forward and handed her a small envelope. Inside was a key, a symbolic one, gold-plated, engraved with her initials. For everything you unlocked in us, Kira said. Anna smiled and hugged her. That evening, as she left the dealership for the last time as its leader, she turned back for a final look. The glass doors, the polished floors, the now familiar faces inside. All of it had been transformed. She got into her car, a simple hybrid, not the Phantom, not the Fleet, just the kind of car she liked. And as she drove away, she passed by a young woman walking with a resume clutched in her hands, staring up at the dealership. Anna rolled her window down. They're hiring, she said with a wink. The girl smiled, nodded nervously, and walked through the same doors Anna had once been. pushed out of. Only this time, the story would start very differently. Because of one simple woman. And the billionaire who believed in her.